In this short overview, I'll demonstrate how contract notices work within CivilPro. Contract notices is an umbrella term for things like RFIs, letters to the administrator, CARs, etc. We essentially create templates, and then when we create a contract notice within CivilPro, we select the template and populate the relevant fields. We then send that off to our clients. Let's jump into CivilPro. So to set these contract notice templates up, we jump in here, other setup, contract notice templates. We'll create a new contract notice template, and here we give it the name that we'd like to select when we're using it. Here in the body is where we create the framework for that template without actually putting in the substance of what ultimately will be an RFI. Useful here is adding tables. I won't go through the full configuration process in here, but very similar to Word, you can modify tables, you can add things in here. What I will touch on is the automatic fields. So firstly, for this subject, I want it to say the project name, the project number, then the word RFI, and then the RFI number after it. So I'm going to click up here. On the top right hand side, you can see we've got this field chooser. Here are all of the automatic fields that we can select from within CivilPro that will automatically populate when we use this RFI template. So I'm going to add the project number, space, hyphen, space, project name, space, hyphen, space, but then I'll put in the contract notice reference number. Similarly down here, we can add things like who they are from, who they are to, etc. I'm now going to show you one that I've already created. Here you can see my already created RFI template. I've got a number of fields down through here, as well as some automatic fields in here, and then a prompt for the user to change the subject within this line here. Once we've saved that, we can now go to the contract notices area and create one using that template. Here I'll select new contract notice. I'll choose from the template that we just created, and I'll address this to the recipient. Here are some other fields that we can populate here when we're creating a contract notice. If these were automatically populating fields within our template, the values that we put in here will automatically be pulled into that contract notice. Here it gives us an example of the template that is going to be used. If this is the wrong template, we've got the opportunity to go back at this stage before we create that contract notice draft. So here, this is just a confirmation that the correct template is being used. We don't put information in this window. Cool, we've now created our contract notice draft, and now I can input information into this panel here. So I'll quickly do that. I've now added the content of this RFI, and I've replaced that subject text prompt up the top here with the actual subject of this RFI. Be sure to use things like the formatting lists down here. Once we have got everything in place here, before I progress any further, for example, adding things in here, be sure to save at this stage. This will ensure that everything is saved so that when we navigate away from this window to attach things, the changes we've made in here are not lost. So I'll click save. Cool. We can see now that our subject has updated correctly. Now I can go into this template and I can attach things. So if I had file store documents that I wanted to be added to this, or lots or photos, for example, I can click on any of these and it will take me to the respective registers. And here I can select relevant lots, for example. If I do have an auto-populating field within my contract notice templates, for example, the lots that are linked to it, as I've now linked these, when I render this contract notice, those lot IDs will be pasted into the area where those automatic fields have been added in the template. If not, don't worry about it. We add things in here so that when our clients or external parties come back into this contract notice, they can not only see the body of the contract notice, but they can also see all of the relevant files that are linked within CivilPro. Cool, so as I mentioned, always save before you link any files in here. Otherwise, you may lose your unsaved changes. Alternatively, you might even want to prepare your RFI on a notepad application and then drag and drop it when you're ready. Cool, so now I have got my contract notice. I have got the linked items that I deem relevant for this. Next thing I want to do is send this. At any stage, we can save this as a draft and it will appear in the register as a draft. And if your clients don't have access to that register, they won't be able to see it until it is actually published. In the top corner here, I can render it, which will formalize all of the automatic fields and populate it with the actual values. I can publish, which will do the rendering and also make this visible within the contract notices register, but it won't send that notification. To do all of those steps in one, we're just going to use this email function here. Now, be sure to have saved this before you use the email function. Cool. So here we have an example of the notification that is going to be sent and who it is going to. If we attached file store documents that were below the sendable email attachment size, they would also be presented in here, and they'd be received by our recipients along with this email notification. Cool. This all looks good. I'm going to send the notification. Here we are in my client's inbox. We can see the body of this RFI here. For whatever reason, Gmail has intercepted this image. That might be to do with spam, but to see a full copy of that contract notice, it will be attached here as well. So here we can see our contract notice. In this instance, I have made my editing outside of the view window in here. So when you're setting up your template, maybe trial it a few times to make sure you've nailed that edge boundary of your tables in the template. This will just be a notification and an attachment, but what we want our clients to do is to come back into CivilPro to review this along with the related items associated with it and provide responses where they're required. To do that, we can see here as a client, we can click on this notification here and that will take them directly back into CivilPro to this contract notice so that they can review it in context and respond to it. I'll now demonstrate that. So to remind you, we are in the client's view at the moment. We've clicked on that hyperlink and it's taken us back into the RFI within CivilPro. To see the contents, they can click template and they can see the contents down here. To see related items, they can select here and you can see here's that lot that we selected. If there were any file attachments, they would be under this file store documents here. And we can also see an email notification here that just proves that this RFI was sent at a certain point in time. If they then need to respond to this RFI, they'll navigate to responses. Here they'll click add response. Here they'll populate all of the fields that they deem relevant. So in this instance here, a person to action, I'll add that now. If we want to add any attachments, they can add these here. And here is where they can add the body of their response. Once they've populated this, all they need to do is click save. They'll be prompted to send a response, and that notification has now been sent. And we can see evidence, again, from their side, but we can see evidence here that another notification email has been sent associated to this contract notice. I'll now jump back into the requester or the contractors register so that you can see what this contract notice looks like in the register and then what that response looks like. So here we are back in the contractor or the requesters contract notices register. We can see that RFI at the top here, and we can see that there is 0 of 1 responses, which says we've got a response that has not been closed out yet. So I can jump in there, navigate to responses. So here we can see that response, we can see who it was by and when it was made, the body of the response, and if they attached anything, it would be visible in the related items for this contract notice. So you can stay on top of all of your actions in here. Once you have closed out these items, you can mark them as complete. This will then show when that was marked as complete. Finally, once all of the actions associated with the RFI are closed out, we want to close out this entire RFI. Navigate to here, enter closeout. And this just shows who closes out this RFI. Cool. Now back in our RFI register, we can now see that that RFI is marked as green and it's marked as closed out here. And that is how contract notices work within CivilPro. As mentioned at the top of this video, these can be not just for RFIs, but any template that you require for your construction delivery correspondence.